All right, young scholars, today we are going to go through this apartment calculator tutorial, and then I'm going to remind you about Excel Homework 3. Again, it refers back to the make or buy analysis, the muffins we went through, with some minor changes associated with the new brownies that you're going to have to do. So to download the apartments file, click the three buttons and select Download Original File. And you should open a file that looks like this. Now, while you're all working on that, I'm going to go through and read all of these assumptions off for you. So get in the habit of, whenever you can, putting in these assumptions, because you're going to have to do that on the midterm exam. And you'll see that when we do the review in March. The point of the assumptions and putting these in is so we can use them as absolute cell references. So this way, as I mentioned, you just have to change whatever's in the cell rather than the formulas later on. So Bob the builder is deciding whether building a new apartment complex is worth it by comparing the rent, the generated income, to the cost of building and maintaining the apartment complexes. So help Bob the builder decide on which apartment complex is worth creating to produce the highest income. So he can have 1-bedroom apartments, 2-bedroom apartments, or 3-bedroom apartments. So in the 1-bedroom apartment complexes, the 1-bedroom apartments will all have 3 rooms with square footage of 875. So we have 875 here, and we have our total calculated square footage, which you'll see here is our 150 times our 875. The 150 is our 3 rooms times our 50 apartments, which we'll touch on momentarily. In the 2-bedroom apartments, they each have 5 rooms with 1,200 square footage each. So 1,200, and then 180,000 total square footage, which is our 1,200 times 150, which is our 5 rooms per apartment times 30 apartments. 150. And the 3-bedroom apartments each will have 8 rooms, 2,500 square footage each. So we have 2,500 here and 200,000 total square footage here, which is our 80 total rooms, which is that 8 rooms each times 10 total apartments in the 3 bedrooms, multiplied by the 2,500. So the 1 bedrooms have 50 apartments, 3 rooms each. 3 times 50 equals 150. The 2 bedrooms have 30 each, 5 rooms apiece, 30 of them, 150. The 3-bedroom, they have 8 rooms, 10 of them total, 80 rooms total. So that's where those numbers came. Next, Bob the builder is going to assume that all 3 apartment complexes have an exercise room, and that he's going to charge each tenant $20 per month for the exercise room. Even if they don't use it, they're going to be charged. So in order to calculate our income, we're going to add rent, state rebate, and exercise room fees. So to calculate our rent, we're going to have this big long formula here. Our per room fee times number of rooms plus our square root fee times the square root footage. But remember, that's just for one apartment. So we have to multiply that by our number of apartments as well. So our per room fee is $14 for everyone. So we have that assumption here. And our square root fee is $6 for everyone. So we have that right there. So we have two of the pieces of that four-piece formula already set up for us. The state rebate is based on the total rooms and total size in square footage, which is why we calculated our total square footage up here. If the total size is greater than 13,000 square feet, or the rooms is greater than 55, then the state rebate is $85 per apartment. Otherwise, it is $95 per apartment. So we have that here, 1,300, 55, 85, 95. Then it says Bob the Builder will take out a loan at 4.5% interest and pay the loan off using monthly payments for 30 years. So we have 4.5% interest rate, 30 years. Then the cost to build is as follows. We have the square foot per apartment and the cost per square foot. And then we have the range and the cost associated. Now remember that the loan cost is determined based on the total construction of each building. So that's our present value when we do our payment function is going to be whatever the cost to build the building is. So the taxes are based off of the monthly rent. It's 7% for the first 45,000 and 7.85% for everything over 45,000. So 7%, 45,000, 7.85%, and 45,000 there. And then lastly, if the total square footage of the building exceeds 25,000 square feet and income is greater than 54,000 per month, the maintenance cost is $3 per square feet. If not, the maintenance cost is $3.25 per square feet. So we have that here, 25,000, $54,000, $3.25. The minimum cost of maintenance per month is $45,000. That is, if the maintenance cost is less than $45,000, it's automatically rounded up to $45,000. So now you already see that your monthly income formulas are already in there for you, which simply adds the rent, rebate, and exercise room fees, just as I just went over in the assumptions below. Your monthly costs adds the payment, taxes, and maintenance fees, and your monthly profit subtracts your income and your cost. Then below, you see build or not build. We're going to do like we did with make or buy. Do we determine if we should build this or not build this based on whether or not we're making a profit? And then we're going to calculate our largest monthly profit, which is simply our max, and then our average monthly profit, which is simply our average. So for our one bedroom, we had that long-winded formula to calculate rent. So we do equals, open parenthesis, We scroll down and we select E30, which is our per room fee from the formula for rent. We multiply that by E22, which is our number of rooms, close parenthesis, plus open parenthesis, E31, which is our square foot fee, multiplied by E19, which is our total square footage. But we need to make E30 and E31 all absolutes, because those are not going to change throughout this formula. Our per room fee and square root fee will all remain the same. However, we now need to multiply this by the number of rooms. So for the one bedroom, we have 50 total apartments there. So this first part only gave us our rent for one apartment. Now, when we multiply that by the total number of apartments, we have the total monthly rent. And it gave me a little error warning because I forgot to add the closing parentheses there at the end. So the formula should look like so here in the formula bar. And when you hit enter, you should end up with $39,377,100. So we autofill this over, but you'll notice we get zeros. That's because we need to fix things. Because the only things that remain the same are the E30 and the E31 as absolutes. Everything else needs to be fixed to match the 2-bedroom and the 3-bedroom. So with the 2-bedroom, instead of F22, it should be E23 to represent the number of rooms in the 2-bedroom. So just like the 1-bedroom, it is 150 total rooms. The F19 needs to be changed to E20 to represent the total square footage, that 180,000. And then the E22 needs to be changed to D23 to represent the total number of apartments for our entire rent. So now should be E23, E20, and D23, with the two absolutes remaining the same for the 2-bedroom. So this way you're multiplying by number of rooms, number of square footage, number of total apartments for the 2-bedroom. So 150, 180,000, 30. Now when you hit enter for that, you now have a correct answer. A little over 32 million there. And for the 3-bedroom, we make the same adjustments. The G22 here should be E24 to represent the total number of rooms, that 80 there. The G19 should be E21 to reflect our total square footage. And then lastly, the F22 should be D24 to represent our total number of apartments. So E24, you're 80. E21, you're 200,000 square foot. Your D24, your 10 total apartments. Now, obviously, you notice the 1-bedroom has more apartments. It has the most rent. 2-bedroom has 30. It has a little less rent. Your 3-bedroom only has 10 apartments, so it has much less rent. So now we need to calculate our monthly state rebate. And this refers back to the part here. If the total size and square footage is greater than 13,000 or the amount of rooms is greater than 55, the rebate is $85. Otherwise, it's $95. So we're going to have to use a nested function here. Last week, we used an if and nested function. This time, because it said or in the assumption, we're going to have to use an if or nested function. So if or E19, which is our total square footage, is greater than E34, which is our assumption for the 13,000 square feet. We make that an absolute. Or E22, we put a comma in between because it's or. The 150 is the E22, that's our number of rooms, greater than our 55 there in F34. We make that an absolute. That's not going to change. Close parenthesis. Comma. If it's true, then it's 85. So we select G34. We make that an absolute. Comma. If it's false, 95. And we make that an absolute. And then we close our if out. However, that just gives us the monthly rebate for one of our apartments. We need to calculate it for all. So we then multiply by D22 here, our 50 apartments. So it's if or E19, our square footage, greater than 13,000, comma, our total number of rooms, 150, greater than 55 as an absolute, close the or, comma. If it's true, $85 as an absolute, comma. If it's false, $95 as an absolute. Close out the entire if, and then multiply it by your total number of apartments. And then when you hit enter, you should have an answer of $4,200, $4,250. Now the same thing applies when we click back in and autofill it through. We don't have correct answers yet. We have to click back in and modify our non-absolutes in order to fix this up. So instead of F19, it should be E20 to represent square footage. Instead of F22, there should be E23 to represent our number of total rooms. And then instead of E22, there should be E23 to represent our total number of apartments. So E20, E23, D23. Once you have all that set up and click enter, we have our correct answer now of a little over 2,500.
Excuse me, I have a question.
Yes.
Could you go back to the formula for C2 with the 2-bedroom apartment complex? I think I just missed something because it's giving me a wrong answer when I input it to the spreadsheet.
Okay. So can you see this formula here?
Yeah, I could see it. All right, I have the E30 time. So wait, I have to change the F19, correct? To E20, right?
Yep. So as I showed you guys on Monday, when you autofill across, when you have things in a column and you go the other way, it tries to change it the wrong way. So you have to go back in and change it manually.
Okay, thank you. And these videos are recorded, right? So like I can go back and see.
Yep.
Like,
So
okay.
all of these, once we finish, I pop them back up, and it's this like it'll say for today 131. I'll probably put it right here, and you guys can go back and look through it.
Okay, all right. Thank you. I appreciate it.
No problem. Okay. So now we have to fix up the 3-bedroom apartment complex rebate. So our G19 here should be E21 to represent our total square footage. The G22 here should be E24 to represent the total number of rooms. And then lastly, the F22 should be D24 to represent the total number of apartments. So again, E21, E24, and D20. And once you have those fixed up and hit enter, it should change from 0 to $850. So I believe in the video of just the recording of this that's already posted, I think I just put, $85 and $95 instead of them in as absolutes. So keep that in mind. Okay. Next, for the monthly exercise room fee, we refer back to that. It says that Bob the Builder earns $20 per month per tenant for the exercise room. Even if they don't use it, they're charged. So you have the $20 there. So we do equals. We select that $20 in cell E26, and we make it an absolute. So what I did is I made the assumption on my own that there's a person that's living in each room in these apartments. So you could make that calculation one of two ways. You could either do multiply times C2 times E2, 3 rooms, 50 apartments, or you could simply multiply it by E22, which is already C22 times D22, 150. Either way, entirely up to you. So we multiply that, we get 3,000. This way we autofill it across. We just have to change one thing. So the F22 should be E23 for the 150 rooms for the 2-bedroom. And then the G22 should be E24 to represent the 80 rooms in the 3-bedroom. So again, this makes the assumption that there's a person living in every room that's going to be paying the exercise fee. And you'll now notice that the monthly income has been tabulated by adding the rent, rebate, and exercise room fees together. And obviously, you see here that when you're collecting these fees from tenants, obviously the big amount is the rent.
Excuse me, Professor.
Yes.
I did something wrong in D3. I just wanted to make sure. Yeah.
D3. So you should have changed E21 to represent the total square footage. E24 gives you the total number of rooms, and D24 gives you the 10 apartments.
Okay, I see what I did. I put E, but it's on top of D, so it's just a typo.
Perfect. All right. So I'm actually going to do now the largest and average, just because those are the two easiest formulas to do. So here where it says largest monthly profit, whenever you see largest, it just means maximum. Whenever you see smallest, it just means minimum. So you would use the max or min function. So for largest profit, we're going to do equals max, open parenthesis, and then highlight this range of our 3 profits. So it should be B10 colon D10. and then close parentheses. And when you hit enter, right now it's going to give us this first one. However, once we calculate everything, it may give us a different answer. So it's max, and then the range of our 3 monthly profits. And then for the average, we would do the same thing. Equals average, open parenthesis, highlight our 3 monthly profits, close parenthesis, enter. And again, that formula shows us an answer right now that may change as we move along. So next, we're going to determine whether to build or do not build. And just like with the largest, our max and our average, this may change based on our calculations of the cost. So since there's 2 choices here, it's an if. So we do equals if our B10, our profit, is greater than our B9, our cost, comma, we build. Otherwise, comma, do not build. If we're not making a profit, we don't want to build. So if our profit is greater than our cost, build. Otherwise, do not build. And then we autofill that across. And you'll notice it changes properly. C10, C9, D10, D9. So we don't have to worry about changing anything. But like I said, because we have not calculated our cost just yet, all of those may change still. So first we need to calculate our monthly loan payment to pay for our construction. So we do equals minus in order to give us a positive number. Because when you do the payment function, it gives you a negative number. A negative times a negative gives you a positive number. So equals negative sign PMT, open parenthesis. We then scroll down to select our interest rate here in cell E35 of our 4.5% that Bob the Builder takes out for the loan. We make that an absolute because that's not going to change for any of these. Next, it says that the loan is going to be paid off monthly for 30 years. So we select the 30 in cell F35. We make that an absolute. However, since they're being paid monthly, we multiply that by 12. Then we have to determine our present value. So we look to our total square footage. So in the first bedroom, it's 131,250. But for each one, it's 875. So we scroll down to look in our chart, and 875 is in between 701 and 999. So we multiply that by the 260 here. So we multiply our total square footage times the amount that our square footage per room is going to cost us. So in this case, because it's 875, it's $260 per square foot. And you could obviously see in the other two instances, since they're both over 1,000, they're both going to be at that $230 range. When we hit enter here, our monthly loan payment is a little over $1.5 million a month. When we autofill this formula through, again, we have zeros because we need to change some things. So for those last two, I pointed out that they're both going to be B41 to reflect the $230 there. We need to change to reflect the total square footage. So that will be E20 for the 2-bedroom. And then E21 for the 3-bedroom. So E20 times B41 and E21 times B41. So next we need to calculate our monthly taxes here. Which we're told is based on our monthly rent. It's 7% for the first 45,000 and 7.85% for everything over 45,000. So we have all that here, 7%, 45,000, 7.85%, 45,000. So we do equals, open parenthesis. E45 multiplied by D45, our 7%. But we make both of them absolute. They're not going to change. Then we add open parenthesis, B2 which is our monthly rent, minus G45, close parenthesis, times F45 are 7.85%, close parenthesis. But we make the G45 and the F45 absolutes as well. So this way, the only thing that's going to change is that B22 when we drag it over. The B22 will change to C22 and D22, etc. To just change to the rent because that's what our taxes are based on. So what this is doing is multiplying our first 45 grand times 7%, and then our monthly rent minus 45 grand times that 7.85%. Because every one of these monthly rents, we have more than 45,000. So when we hit enter, our monthly taxes are a little over $3 million, which on $39 million isn't too bad. And then we autofill that over, and everything is fine here. Just like I said, it changes B2 to C2 and to D2, just like we want it to. And again, that's why we use these absolutes. So if we want to do change any of these assumptions, we just go down here and change. Oh, okay, we're going to make this 5% now. We just change this here. We don't have to go in and change any of our formulas. We just change the assumption. So last but not least, we're asked to calculate the monthly maintenance. If the square footage of the building exceeds 25,000 and income is greater than 54,000, the maintenance cost is $3 per square foot. If not, it's $3.25 per square foot. The minimum cost is 45,000. So if it's less than 45,000, it's rounded up to 45,000. So since all of them are going to be over 45,000, we're just going to do a nested function of if and you'll see this on the exam. So in the prior example, we used if or because it had the word or in the sentence of the assumption. In this example, we use and because it had and in the sentence example for the assumption. So we do equals if, open parenthesis, and, open parenthesis, E19, our total square footage, greater than E49, our 25,000, comma, E5, which is our income, greater than F49 here, which is our 54,000. Close parenthesis. So those are the two conditions we're checking. However, our E49 and F49 need to be made into absolutes. But that just calculates our and, our two things that we check for. We now need to give our true value and our false value for the if. So we do comma, E19 multiplied by G49. And we make that an absolute. But if it's false, then we do E19 multiplied by H49. And we make that an absolute. and then close parentheses. So if both of those conditions are met, then our total square footage is multiplied by the cheaper amount. Otherwise, our total square footage is multiplied by the more expensive amount. So the only thing here that we'll have to change for the other two is the E19, E19, E19. We simply change it in the other ones to represent E20 and E21 for the total square footage. And we'll show you that momentarily. So when you hit enter, it's a little under 400,000 for the maintenance. Not bad. So we auto-fill through. And again, you see zeros for both of them because we need to fix it up. So in all three spots where it has F19, it should have E20 to represent the next total square footage. The C5 remains the same. That should be fine. That's our monthly income we're checking. All of the F19s need to be changed to E20 to reflect the total square footage. Hit enter, you now have 540,000. And then for the last one, all of the G19s should be changed to E21 to reflect the total square footage for the 3-bedroom. And the D5 does not need to be changed because it represents our monthly income. So all of the G19s change to E21. And again, like I said, that's because we're auto-filling across and these numbers are going down. So we're auto-filling by row. Those numbers were going down by column. That's why we have to go back in and make these minor adjustments. And once you click enter there, you now have 600,000. And now you notice that in every instance, there's going to be a profit and that they should all be builds. But you'll notice here that the average and the maximum profit changed from what we saw earlier. As I mentioned, it might. That was because we now calculated those costs associated with this. So again, like I said, even though there's technically not homework on this, you want to look through and make sure you go back and do this so you have it saved as quote unquote your notes for the midterm, especially knowing when to use, an if and instead of an if or. Like I kind of just pointed out, usually you'll be able to tell from the way the sentence is written. If this and this, then it would be an if with an or, and it's if this or this, then it's an if with an or inside. Okay. So before I open it up to questions on that, I want to touch back into homework 3, refer you back to what we did on Monday. So when you're typing in your assumptions and fixing up your assumptions, make sure you go through each one. So the 30 ounces from the muffins changes to 10 ounces. Make sure that you're typing these numbers in correctly because they're literally like percentages of pennies here. Make sure with the formatting, like I had $15, if you type in $12.50, it might just show you $13. Make sure you right click, format cells, put the decimal places up to 1 or 2, depending on what you may need. This way, even if you have the correct formula, if it says $13 an hour, it might give you the wrong answer. It's going to mess up some of your calculations. So make sure you go through and read everything specifically, because there are some minor differences. For example, I mentioned with administration, we did okay. You know, if it's over 1,000, then it just falls back to 1,000. Whereas on the homework, if it's over 1,000, or if it's under 1,000 rather, it gets bumped up to 1,000. So you'll have to know how to switch the less than greater than sign on the homework from the in-class exam. All right, so are there any questions on what we just did with the apartment calculator? Homework number 3, like you said, like I've been doing, I'll just pop the recording of the entire class lecture up right here above the homework 3. Once I have it uploaded to YouTube, and it goes through that whole little 15-minute process. I did grade homework 2s yesterday or Monday. I want to point out again, make sure you are putting these formulas in your cells to get your answers. If you're just putting these numbers down, you're not going to get credit. The reason I'm being a stickler with this is your notes. There's no textbook for this class. These are your notes for the midterm that you're going to use. The midterm literally is going to combine all of these concepts together. Like I mentioned, it is the only difficult thing in this class, or it should be at least. It's going to take you time to do it. You're going to have to refer back to these homeworks to look through these. Oh, well, this is where I use this formula. It'll probably apply here. Oh, okay, I used an if and here because it said if and in the sentence. I should use it here then. So you need to be doing that when you're doing the homeworks and these examples. All right, so I'll open it up to questions.
I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
When I was doing the homework, that was like due last week. I finished it and then I tried to copy and paste it and move it to like a different document and submit it there. But I'm not used to Excel, so I had to like copy it and they asked me like for an option, do I want to take a picture of it? So like a digital picture. So I
Okay,
did, and then I just pasted like through like that method because I didn't really know how to, paste it like normally. I'm not used to Excel.
okay. So that was for
The more recent homework.
the restaurant one.
Yeah.
So that was the one. Basically, you were going to highlight like this range like this in your whole the class example, and then you would right click and select copy, and then you would go into the next sheet, the restaurant one that I gave you, and then you'd highlight that same range and then right click, and it should say paste formulas here. Or you could have done Control V, which just pastes everything.
Oh, I tried doing that, but it didn't allow me to.
It didn't allow you to?
Yeah, it didn't work. I don't know.
Interesting. Do you want
But
to try it again today and email it to me if it works, and I can give you credit for it?
all right, but I tried like doing that like right now. I tried to copy it, but for some reason when I was trying to do the highlighting thing, it wouldn't let me highlight like everything like all in one setting.
Okay, let's see if anybody else has any questions. Then I'll stop sharing and I'll let you share and I can see if I can walk you through it.
Okay.
All right. Does anybody else have any questions? No? All right. I'll see everybody else on Monday then. Good luck on the homework. Email me with any questions and hopefully I can now help Sam figure this out. Okay.